Hello, Widowhood. My guest today, Donna, is going to share with you details on about how to manage when your spouse has lost his life by his own hands, how to have that conversation with your children, the importance of community, and so much more. Let's get into this conversation now.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Donna. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Thank you so much for having me, Tina. Much appreciated.
Oh, let me ask you this. When you hear welcome to the Widowhood, like what really comes to your mind? Like if someone just read the ticker tape embedded inside your brain, what would that look like?
Well, for me, because widowhood for me, I've got 12 years out now. So when I hear someone say like, welcome to the widowhood, be like, oh yeah, I'm rocking that. Like, I'm all right with it. It's okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Very different than what it felt like many years ago.
And to that person that's in month one,
Yeah.
and they hear someone say 12 years, you're rocking that, and they cannot even see how to take a shower regularly.
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
I would say that if you shower every 3 days, that's good enough, right? Like you are okay. Slow the roll. There is no timeline on this. And I'm not saying that every day I feel like I'm rocking it. Some days I wake up and feel like I just lost my Greg, right? It's just part of the journey. We learn to live with it. We don't go beyond it. And when we can walk alongside of the widowhood, we're in great shape. So take your time, slow your roll. There is no guidebook. There is no definition. Take care of you, especially in those early months, year 1 and year 2. Just take care of you and really 2 feet on the ground, standing up. You did it.
That sums it up. When you think for you to say 12 years later, you still can wake up moments and like, Greg is not here.
Yeah.
Like it can hit you like that. Are there any particular timelines that make it more impactful than other or benchmarks in your life?
I mean, when we lost my Greg, my kids were 8, 11, and 12, and I was 40. Now they're 23, 22, and 20. They're adults. They're full-fledged adults. Now we're hitting those milestones. High school graduations, college graduations, first houses, new jobs. And those are the things I always thought we would partner together, right? And that has been impactful. What's really impactful, what makes me miss him most, is my oldest looks just like him, right? And when you see him walk down the hall and he has his dad's gait, is that the word? I mean, he was 12 when he lost his dad. He was 2 feet shorter. It's like almost shocking because he's the age that I met his dad. So as he walks down the hallway, I see a man that looks just like my late husband. And it takes me off my feet. I'm like, wow, that happened. Yeah, those are big ones. Smells do it for me. Yep. Dirty gym bags. That's my husband. Like right there. And I'll tell you to all the listeners out there, it is A-okay, even though you lost someone that you love very much. So when you smell that dirty gym bag, I got immediately annoyed. Like, why don't you just take the clothes out so we can wash them? Like, it's okay. I'm allowed to have the feeling of, wow, he used to really pee me off at that moment in time. That's a lot. That's human. It's human. Let yourself do it. You're not a bad person for doing that.
Wow. When you say that, I can relate to that. My son, he has a lot of clothing items of his dad. And he doesn't live with me, but I'll pick him up sometimes. We're hanging out and he has on his dad's sweater and his shoulders look like his dad. Or if I see him from behind and wearing something, it's just like, it's love, sucker punch, and everything all embodied in one thing. And like, I'm like, you just knocked me out of hello just doing that. But you said something about the gym bag, about if that were Greg's gym bag, about you would have said this and that. It made me think about in this journey, a lot of times people spend a deep amount of sorrow in the what ifs. If I would have had my time back, if I could have done this over. Have you ever encountered the what if season? And if so, what has helped you with that?
I mean, the what if season was huge, huge in like year one, 100%. So my husband had taken his life. And so I always thought, like, what if I didn't spend that extra half hour at lunch with the kids? I could have been there. What if I would have told his employer that I worried about him and they would have taken his gun? Right? Like, what if? You live in that. And I really, after probably a good, I think it was year three, I was like, okay, I gotta stop because nothing's going to happen out of it. We are today. We are the moment we live in. It was a quote in year three I heard, and I belongs to someone, and I'm using it. It's not mine, but it was, you can't change what God does. You can't change what Mother Nature does. You can't change what other people do. You can only change what you do. So every morning when I wake up, I can't keep asking what ifs. I have zero control of that. I can say, okay, what am I going to do right now? And that has really helped me carry forward. Like we're done with the what ifs. What am I going to do right now? What am I going to do right now? So that's been really, really, really helpful. I do say that I definitely went down the road when I got remarried 2 years ago of like, what do I want this second marriage to look like? Different from the first. Did a real big inventory, which I look is a little different than what ifs. A real big inventory of what worked to marriage number one, what might not have worked to marriage number two. How is marriage number three different? Like we don't have young kids anymore. Our careers are set. Things like that are different. And what do I want this marriage to be like? If I had a magic wand of marriage number one, what would I have done differently? And how can I incorporate that into marriage number two? So
You have said a lot there, and I'm trying to make sure I capture, but just a little shout out to your current husband. Let's talk about this wall behind you.
yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
So yeah, this is the wall in my office, and I'm a minimalist. I can barely decorate. Like I look at the beautiful background you have, and I'm like, how'd she even know how to put those things there? Like
My
the wall would,
my sister.
well, okay, you've got one in your life too.
She lives next door. That's what that is.
Thank goodness they're matched up with us for a reason. That wall would have been white and just black because like there's no judgment. No one can judge me if I don't put anything up there, right? Not right or wrong. I just didn't do anything. So he's like, just stay out of your office for 2 days. And when you come back, it'll be beautiful. And it is. And oh, I wish I could turn the camera around. There's like a contemporary little seating area and the whole bit. And when clients come in or friends come in, they're like, this place is awesome. Well done. Like, I didn't do a thing. Like, I love it too. Yes. Right. And there's these like little, little statues, like golden, and they have beads and tassels of little elephants all over the rooms. And he listened because my late husband and I lived in Rome for years, in Italy. And all the shopkeepers always have a statue of a elephant with the trunk by the door, facing the door, to welcome in wealth. And so he always, like throughout the entire office, there's 5 rooms, he put a little elephant and always faced it towards the front door. So we always have good fortune and good wealth. I was like, you listen to me. I say a lot. I talk a lot. Look, I've lost my voice. I talk a lot. So
Good. I had to give him a shout out. I want to circle back to some of the things that you just shared, which
sure.
were all very powerful. Being the widow of a spouse that took their life, what are the things that people need to know that people are not telling them about being in that situation that you've learned?
Some people skate around the topic. They don't know what to say. No one knows what to say. The topic of suicide can be covered religiously, mental illness. Some people think it's selfish. Some people don't. So many people just avoid it and act like that's not how it happened. And what I can say is, if you have a safe enough relationship with that person, it's okay to say, I know a lot of people probably don't ask you, do you want to talk about it? Right there. And I could very easily say, oh, hell no, don't want to talk about it. Or I could easily say, yeah, I had these questions. Would you mind listening? Fantastic. But by avoiding, you don't give that opportunity to share. You don't let that person know it's in the room. It's the elephant in the room. That is the beautiful little statue wearing a wealth. It's the big fat elephant in the room. And you just feel like this strange person, right? Like, yeah, yeah. And love up on them. Really love up on them. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that because you know more than myself that there are so many people that feel like their grief isn't validated for somebody feeling like the person on the outside telling you that person was selfish or condemnation and other different things. And to me, what matters is the person that's in front of me. They're the person that I'm needing to support. They are the person that needs to know that their grief matters and it shouldn't act like this didn't happen because that impacts your grief in a different way than other people. And I know everyone's grief is unique, but someone's spouse that has died by suicide creates some additional complications. How was that conversation to be had with children? Any recommendations on how to share that news with a child? And I know that depending on the age, but ways to navigate that.
Yeah. I mean, depending on the age, it's really hard. I do really say to get some professional guidance if you need it. If you yourself are having a hard time digesting it. And my husband suffered with depression for years that we did not make public. It was secret. It was us. It was behind closed doors. We navigated as a couple. So the kids thought many of times that he traveled a lot with work, that he was traveling with work, and he was actually curled up in a ball in our master bedroom. It was a game of smoke and mirrors. So when he passed, my kids didn't have the life experience to know that dad was depressed. We had never talked about it. They couldn't even relate to it. So I had to be very, very careful. And slowly, it wasn't just the suicide, it was his struggle, his lifetime struggle, how bad the last 2 years were. That had to be unpacked along with
Everything. And I want to tell you thank you for being willing to have this conversation. And I know you make your voice known that people don't have to feel like they are alone. And I know we can share our story and sometimes it can just rattle off of our tongues like, we're talking about last night's sports game. And then other times it costs us to share these stories. This comes at a price. And I want to say thank you for being willing to give that price so somebody else knows that they're not alone in this hood, this widowhood, that we are alongside of you. And I know we met during the winter solstice, and that was a community event. Can you share some things that you remember about your participation in that event and why it was so important to you?
I loved hearing from all the different widows in the room, from what vantage point we were all at life, right? And how did we lose our spouse? Were we divorced before we lost them? And then we lost, what a dynamic there. I was like, oh, how do you wrap your head around that one, right? Like talk about the what ifs and things like that, right? As well as the chat that was going on with the attendees of the group. That was my favorite part, so that they could actually engage, and the attendees were actually linking us all together in a very beautiful way
Mm,
of the experience of widowhood, even though we came from all different backgrounds. And I thought that was wonderful. And I love the inspiration that the panel gave for we know you're in the muck of it, right? Like, yeah, and it's okay, be in the muck, right? But this is how we journeyed out. And this is what worked for us. We're not saying it could work for you, and we're not giving you all the counseling in the world. It wasn't that it. It was peer relationship. And that's what your podcast does. It's peer relationship. Other people that have been in this space, how did it work for you? And I thank you for doing this and for being there, because they're so different than counseling and peer groups and support groups. There's a need for all of that. But to be here and say like, okay, wait, that's how that worked for that person. Maybe that would work for me. And to hear it from all those different vantage points is really, really good. And I'm just going to touch back a little bit on the like how to talk to the younger people about suicide. Got a little caught up, and yeah, they're going at the voice. May I? Is that okay?
Absolutely. No, I was
Okay.
just trying to scoot you out of that and scoot you
No,
back if you wanted
thank you,
to.
my
I saw
sweet
that.
thing. I know you're gentle you are. I really think a lot of it has to be honesty because there's a way to say it, right? But you don't want your kids hearing it from someone else. You
Mm,
don't want your kids hearing it from the back of the bus from another kid. Suicide can be a sensational, gossipy topic. Sorry, it is, right? And so people on the block are going to talk about it. And when your 8-year-old walks on the bus, they might hear a different version that you didn't tell them. And there's also adults out there who don't play nice and they get their version of what they think about suicide to our children without us being able to protect them. So if they know that they can get honest information from us, age specific, detail specific, but that the door is open as they age to ask more questions, that's the goal. Never lie. Never lie.
that is important because the rumor mill can get in front of you
Oof.
and your child can be devastated in a way that if they're prepared, it still is going to be hurtful to hear the chatter. But if you've been the first voice for them, that changes the dynamics of everything.
Yeah. So I appreciate you. Let me round back up on that one.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to just circle back to something else you said,
Sure.
the value of community.
Oh,
The idea that people often become isolated in this journey because they feel like I've said my story over and over again. Nobody wants to hear me, but there's something about this journey that requires us to repeat it over and over. Or feeling like the people in my circle don't know how to walk beside me. I don't want to talk to strangers. I don't want to do this, so I'll just be alone. If you met me in the grocery store and we bumped into each other and I was sharing that my husband took his life just last year and I really haven't associated with anybody, my family and friends don't know what to do. And I've seen a couple of grief support groups, but I feel like that's trauma bonding and I don't want to do that. What would you share with me?
I think a lot of it, if you maybe don't want to go into that group setting, right? A lot of it is one, be a listening ear. If they're talking to you in the grocery store, they want to talk to someone, right? And maybe it's that one-on-one. And I'm always a huge advocate of listen first, right? A wise man once said nothing. I have so much that I think I'm so talented. I can't wait to hear myself talk. But you have to be so quiet. My husband says that. I stole that line from him. But like, you really, I know the laughter. He's true. He's a gem, right? He's like, I just come out with the most stuff. I'm like, oh, really? Do you? But sometimes you do have to be quiet. And instead of trying to fix it for somebody, there's no fixing grief. You just have to lean in and you just have to be like, okay, to example of what we were doing in that group, Winter Solstice, this worked for me. I have another best friend who's a widow. This worked for her. So that the person doesn't feel like it's like, I'm telling you to do this, right? They don't want to be navigated. They just want to be listened to, hold space for them. The other thing that was really, really helpful for me was called inner work, right? Spirituality. Whether it's God, whether it's Buddha, whether it's anybody, I don't care. But it's that next level, the source beyond us. I found a different level outside of organized religion for my own spirituality, which really, really helped me as a person. And then I was able to go back into the organized religion grew up in, right? Where that sense of community existed for myself. But it was almost like a little shell of myself. I didn't have anything to give to that community until I found who I was on the spiritual side. I couldn't step back in. So whatever might resonate with you, I don't care if it's meditation, I don't care if it's a book, I don't care if it's a walk on the beach, whatever it is that you can connect with, there's two brains, right? The one I'm talking to you through and the one that's in the back of my head talking to me. That one. That's what you want to talk to. Figure that out. Get a good relationship with that in the back of your head. Everything will open up. It will all feel better. So.
I cannot agree with you more because the passing of a loved one, a spouse, has a way of impacting every aspect of life that you've used as a foundation. And most importantly, it will impact someone's faith. and what they believe in and what they feel like their purpose in life is. Were you able to identify that for yourself, or did someone point that out to you, that need to pivot?
I think I found it for myself. My husband and I were of different faiths. Similar, both Christian. He was Catholic, I was Protestant. We're just going to say what it was. Very similar. I agreed to raise the kids Catholic because my husband's faith was very, very strong. Irish Catholic every week. No meat on Fridays. That's what he did. And he loved it. And I was fine with that. I was educated in the Catholic community. So it was all not too foreign for me. And I tried to live by that after he passed. But it wasn't genuine to me. Some of the incidents that happened because he died by suicide became very, very hard to stay in our very small community of the Catholic faith. There's some judgments, some things said to the kids that just happened to be situational, not for the whole religion. I will tell you that. Situational. But because this is the situation I lived in, I had to back out.
Right.
So I backed myself out. I backed my kids out. And I say we were just quiet for 2 years. Just quiet. During that time, I missed spirituality. I missed the time in church. That was just almost meditation time. I missed that. I missed the getting up and committing each week to that 2-hour space. So what do? I found it in that quiet time in my own through meditation and through reading about different religions, different spirituality. And then finally, we were able to step back in with the family to where we wanted to be. So that said, I had to step away to step back in. Nothing was right. Nothing was wrong. The situation I was in didn't work. That was okay. But yeah. And my kids, I talk to them and through the years, I've become more and more spiritual, more law of abundance, law of attraction, that type of stuff. My day job, we don't talk about that a lot. Not at all. Like people might be listening, be like, she's woo? What? No. Yeah.
Who knew?
Right. So you say law of abundance, law of attraction, people are like, oh, yeah, she's got affirmation cards on her desk. Yes, she does. But I'll tell my kids about it honestly now. Like about this helps me. It helps me in business, helps me in my personal life, helps me be a better person of Christianity and faith. Okay. All right. You get there. As long as you get there.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. Thank you for sharing that, because it has a way of dissecting your life and needing to reformat in a version that fits with what you are dealing with in life now. I often hear people say that the person that they've become after their spouse passed may not even fit in the same marriage that they had before because of things that have changed. What would you say to that?
I don't know if I'd still be married. If this person right now was in that old relationship with my husband, Greg, and it was a good one, I don't know. I don't think there was room for the both of us in there. I really don't. So I really believe I carry some of what he had on this earth to give. So yeah, it's just me carrying both now. But I don't think we would have fit. And I think that's honest. Honestly. And I mean, honestly, I have the second husband now. He wouldn't have liked that. So
it is. And I feel like I'm a better person from being married to Mark. What I've learned, that young girl and who I've become in life. In 12 years, you talked about year 1 and 2. And for me, year 1, like, it's more of a memory game. Like, I remember some highlights, but don't ask me like to give you a full script of it. For me, I want to say 9 months to year 2, the fog was gone. And I'm like, oh, we're doing this every day. Oh, when you think of year 1 and 2, what does that look like for you?
Year 1 was pure grit, right? And not the grit that like Angela Duckworth writes about. Grit as in like, I grew up in Philly and I can do this, right? I wanted to be, I call it the 100% best widow ever. When anyone asked my extended family, my late husband had a big family, how's Donna and the kids? I wanted them to be like, oh my God, they're doing fantastic. Winner, I did it. Year 1 widow, down pat, right? And then year 2 hit. And it was like, oh no. Like I just got through the year of the first. This is the reality. And I sunk quick. And that's when I started looking for solutions, peer counseling, spirituality, friends, red wine, like whatever was going to help me. I'm not above it. I will tell.
Riesling yeah, I'm Riesling and whiskey sour. That's me.
Oh my God. Like I remember saying like, oh yeah, I'm the only parent on duty. How many wines can I still drive? Right. And it'd be like one and a splash. Like that's it. Like I was a lightweight. One and a splash. Like
I'm a
we're good.
lightweight too,
Ooh,
very much so.
gotten worse as I gotten older. But then year two is when I started really writing down like the stuff that was worrying me, carrying on my head. My mom used to always have Post-its in her nightstand. I used to make so much fun of her. But I remember grabbing a pen and those Post-its, and when it was on my mind, I couldn't sleep, writing them down, writing them down. And then you go back a week later and you're like, that's ridiculous, or that didn't make sense, or no, that one still sticks. And I started doing this process of, okay, this is what I'm saying to myself. Next column, why is it not true? Next column, what would I rather it sound like? And I would do it again and again and again. And sometimes the reason why it's not true are like 10, right? Of the one sentence. Like, I'm not lovable. Why is that not true? What do I want to sound like? I am the most huggable person when you walk into a room. That's what I want it to sound like. Here we go. How do I make that happen? Can't control other people. Can't control not God. Only control me. That's it. So 3 columns. What it said, why it's not true, and what's it going to sound like next?
Thank you for sharing that. And I want, if possible, to explain the difference of just saying that in your head versus the power of writing that down and then reading it back to yourself. Because somebody may say, well, why I have to do the post-it note? I can just think and it's just as good. What would you share from your learned experience of that?
There's something about the repetition. There's something about writing it down. There's something about being able to run your fingers over the words that just turns on a part of your brain, the subconscious, that is now absorbing this again and again and again. Because of that habit that I would be doing of writing it on Post-it, like I'm reading it, I'm dissecting it, I'm focusing on it. It's not just laying in the drawer, right? Like we're working with it. But even just writing it down, it embeds something differently. You can now visualize those words where before they were just floating. It's almost like a way that your brain can organize. And when maybe you're sleeping, work on it. Work on it. Every morning I write down my top 10 lists of my top 10 goals for the year. Personal, I do it. It's called Witty Whiffy. What do you want from yourself? 3 for personal, 3 for community, 3 for my business, and then 1 bonus extra, 10. And I write them down every morning before I do anything else. Top of my mind, write them down. Top of my mind, write them down. Maybe I write some gratitudes too. Maybe that's just it because I gotta pee. Like these are the things I'm writing down. And that has changed where I focus my day. If I'm doing something during the day, it doesn't support one of the 3 for the personal, one of the 3 for the community, one of the 3 for the business or that bonus fun one. Like, then why am I doing it?
That changes a lot because we definitely know that we have a limited amount of time in this world. So what am I doing with the time that I have? Sometimes I hear people think that because we have remarried, that you're no longer a widow. What would you say to that statement?
If I could step out of the widow shell and be like, nope, just married person, I wouldn't want to. I love the fact that I was a widow. I love that it's part of my kid's story. I love that it's part of my story. It impacted my entire world. Like I said, like the person I am now, I don't know if that would have fit in the old marriage. And if it wasn't for Greg's passing, everything might have felt very differently. I'm sure it would have, right? So I don't want to leave that behind, right? But I get it, right? Like I now have that second person to lean on. I am no longer a sole parent where there's no weekends off, where there's no one to run an idea past. Like I do have a partner in that. So it does change the dynamic. But with that, my husband divorced before I married him. His ex-wife passed away while we were married. So he's like, can I be a widower even though we were divorced beforehand? I'm like, you are your very own podcast, my friend. Let's figure this out. Because he faced challenges that none of my widows or my widow friends have chased, like not having rights to some of your kids' information for healthcare because they were on his ex-wife's healthcare. And they're not going to be on his, they're going to be on her benefit. But then it doesn't go in his name because he's divorced. He doesn't get the benefit. So whose name does it go in? Oh, the youngest child. Like, it's insane. And he had to navigate all of this. And there was no guidebook. There was no one to lean on. Like you think there was no group for I was divorced and then she died and I'm a guy. God, none. Like, I get it. I get it, bud. There's none. Lucky for him, he's married to a widow. So like together we were able to navigate the Social Security, navigate those things. But it's weird. So I would
feel
not
like he needs to be a guest. I feel like we need to have a conversation.
you need to have a 2-hour podcast. He talks more than me. God bless him. But he's a chatter. So
Okay.
but that's different, right? A weird dynamic, isn't it?
Yes, I'm just going to say yes.
Dynamic.
I don't think I've come across that particular scenario.
Yeah. Tough.
Wow. How did you know that you were ready to think about dating? And did dating look like getting married to you initially, or was it just having a friend? How were you ready to say, I'm ready to, put my toe in that water?
I think I jumped into dating way too early. Like right after the first year, right around the first year. And for me, let's go back to the suicide thing. I really needed to work on me a little bit because I really felt like I wasn't lovable. If he loved me enough, if I was worth staying alive for, he'd be here. So yeah, I was going out there dating, trying to make myself feel lovable, worth being around. Took many years of therapy, straight out therapy, to figure that out, right? So I was just doing it to make myself feel like, I was worth something. So those relationships didn't go so well. So that's okay. And then I took a breather. The husband that I met, I just met him organically. So we were friends for years before we ever started dating. So that was just very, very easy to have someone that you would consider of like your top 5 friends. All of a sudden be someone you dated. So that was nice. Gotta say that. So I don't have much advice for going out there dating, using apps, going to dinners. Didn't do it well, crashed and burned, pulled myself out. Yeah. And I remember when my husband when we went on our first date, even though it wasn't an official date, and he was like, hey, like, I know you're not dating anyone. I think his divorce was a little over a year. He's like, I've always really had a great relationship with you. Would you like to try dating? I got mad. I was like, you're going to ruin our friendship. I cherish my friendships. Now you made it weird. Thanks a lot. I was bad. It was horrible. I don't want to raise anyone else's kids. I don't want to do this. No way. That'd be 6 kids between us. Forget it. No, I don't even want to date you. Thanks for ruining a friendship. Slam the door. Very next morning, called back up. So that stuff I said last night, I'm really sorry. Really sorry. I thought about it. Can we try this again? Can we try it again? I would love to go on a date with you. Very different. Very different.
Did he hang up on you, or did he allow you? What happened?
He allowed me. That's why we're here today. He had some grace. He still makes fun of me for it. Oh, wait. And then there's a list of top 10 rules. Like, if I date you, this is the best. I'll give you the number 1.
Oh, no, I went on 10. Yeah.
That's his podcast. He'll go down. I think he has
but I see
listed
10
in his
is your number,
pocket.
though. I'm paying attention. I'm seeing that.
The top 1 was like, if I date you, because we were friends for so long, like, I don't want you to date anyone else, and I'm not going to date anyone else. And I'm not telling you it's like exclusive or going steady or engaged. I'm just saying I won't be able to tolerate that. Like, I adore him as a person so much. I don't think I could stomach you dating someone else and me at the same time. And I remember him saying, so what you're telling me is that you want to date me and only me, and you're not going to date anyone else. I'm like, yes. He's like, okay.
This is not the rose ceremony at the end. You're going to get a rose, and she's going to still be there.
Yeah.
So at what point did this friendship turn into, I think I want him to kiss me, or I think I could see my life with this person?
I think right when we started dating, it was just, you just knew.
It was just easy.
Absolutely just knew. You just knew. It was just so comfortable and so real. It was almost like we just had to work the logistics out over the years. Yeah, it was just being with a best friend. I consider myself very lucky to have found love twice in life. Really damn lucky. So
It is. And I want your thought on dating and remarriage doesn't solve the widow or grief.
my husband's very good at sharing stories about my husband or getting me to talk about him out loud. And I do the same with his late ex-wife. We knew one another through high school, so that was a little bit different. And we talk about these stories at the family table with all six kids there, right? Because we want the kids to bond together too. They are great. I mean, I gotta say, for a blended family, we hit the jackpot. They just kind of fell in together. They're good buddies. They're fun. And we want them all to have the same shared story. So when we start sharing stories about, oh, when I met your mom, oh, when I met your dad, oh, when we dated, and oh, like his worst habit was, right? Like, do any of you kids do that, right? It starts to bond everyone together. So the family has shared stories of the lost loved ones. When you walk into our front door, we really have a wall and it has like the flag for my husband's casket as an award he won, an award that my stepkids that their mom won. They both were federal agents. So you know what kind of house you're walking into when you walk in. But it's there in the front foyer for a very important reason. So the guests that come in know there's two other people here.
Hmm.
Yep.
So the idea of keeping your late spouse's memory alive is something that is possible and actually should be expected. That you shouldn't have to act like they didn't exist because that's a part of your life.
100%. 100%. Like, I think it's really funny when like one of my husband's kids walks down and they have a sweatshirt on. It says Kendrick on the back, right? It might have been my late husband's sweatshirt. They don't know, but they feel completely comfortable to wear the last name from their stepbrothers and sisters, right? Because it doesn't feel that way to them. We are the Gian Kendrick household. It's just what we are. So that's really lovely. Yeah. And like the fact that my stepkids can fill in a sentence. I was like, you know what Greg would say? Like they know his one-liners. They never met the man, right?
Right.
Like these are keeping that alive is really important and really helpful. When I tell Jim stories about my first marriage, he's taking notes. Well, okay, as a husband, I'm not going to do that. Or as a husband, that works. Like he's not dumb. He's taking notes, and we are navigating because of those stories. Yeah.
Wow. I know in the widowhood community, isolation, trying to find new friends, and managing economics are some very common things that people deal with in the widowhood community. What are some things that you found for yourself that were common in your experience and had to navigate?
So I was lucky. We wound up taking the kids to, it's called Safe Harbor. It's based on like the Dougie Center at a hospital near us. And so it's a free peer counseling for kids, age specific and loss specific. They would meet every other week. And while the kids were meeting, the parents had to meet. And they would teach us about what they were teaching the kids that day, about talking about their grief perhaps, or how to say suicide in public, right? Things like that. So I was in a very specific peer group of other spouses that lost the loved one to suicide. So we had that common denominator, right? And we would bounce things off one another. I learned that sometimes the isolation is real. Sometimes you do it to yourself on purpose, right? Sometimes you have to do it. Sometimes it's just too much and you need someone to pull you out of it, right? Like I can't say there's a right or there's a wrong, but what I will say is if you stay there for too long by yourself, go find somebody. Talk to that person in the food store. Talk to anybody. You can't be there by yourself for all too long, because I was quiet for the longest time in that peer counseling, just quiet. Thought it was disrespectful to talk about Greg taking his life because he was such an honorable man. Right? And then when you start to hear other people's stories, you're like, I get that. Oh, I get that. A little bit easier. Surround yourself with people who can listen to it, who can hear it, who can be present, who can listen, not talk. It's a big one. Economically, like God leaned into the community itself when they need to, right? Like I didn't know where things were being paid early on. right? Like I was one of those people who didn't have credit cards in her name, but one. So when Greg passed, you report his social security number and all the credit cards stop. There's no line of credit for Donna Jean. Wait a second. I just lost his income. Now I don't have any credit. How do I get groceries? Right? Like that was hard because we were fine. We are middle class America. But to say that out loud to someone like, can you believe this? I saw my mom get divorced in the 80s. How do I not have a credit card in my name? Like, whoa. Like, how did I not learn that? But all of a sudden, envelope of cash in my mailbox for groceries. Nobody would tell me who. Nobody would tell me how. Meal trains started up just for 6 weeks, just till life insurance would come through. Like, I told maybe one person, and they activated a whole community. We had meals 2 days a week for 6 weeks. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. So find that trusted soul. Doesn't have to be everyone. You don't have to scream your story from the rooftop. Find that one person who's your go-to. Find that person. And they might be your words for the rest of the community to help.
Wow. Donna, you have shared such very real information. Your 12-year journey. If you could maintain everything you've learned and you were to talk to Donna the day after Greg passed, what would you tell her?
Ooh, you're good at this. Let's do these a lot, Tina. God, I tell her to get her big girl panties on, but make sure they're comfy.
That is fair. I have asked you a slew of questions. Any questions you want to ask me?
Tell me how you met your second husband.
Fred and I met online on a dating app called Zoosk, Zoosk. I want to say I moved to Virginia, and I want to say it was 2019. And I had visited with a friend that has been single her whole life. And I put a cup down and she was cleaning up behind me. I was like, okay, Tina, how long before you don't have space for somebody else in your life? Because I was 50 plus. So it's like, how is this going to work? So I was like, I went and started making me a little thing online, an app and stuff like that. Because I had not run into anybody that seemed worthy that I wanted to spend time with. And so a whole bunch of swiping left, learning a lot out here about the dating world. Shameless plug, every Friday I put out a YouTube about dating. Dating and Loss is the playlist on my YouTube channel. And by the time I had connected with Fred, I had learned, we talked for a couple of days, I want to meet you in person. If you can't meet me in person, goodbye. And yeah, because we're not doing this. I don't have time for none of that. So we met. I said, I just want to meet you in person. Sound really nice. We're meeting in a public place. This is not a hookup. I'm wanting to meet who you were. Simple as that. We met in this coffee shop and sat there for 3 hours and just talked. To this day, neither of us know what that conversation was. Like, we go back to that coffee shop. That's like where we go for our anniversary dinner. It's not something super. It's just what it means to me. Like, where do you want to go? He like, you want to go to the coffee shop? I do. I want to go there.
Yes.
And I mean, he stood up, said hello, and I said, I'm a hugger, and I hugged him. And it sounds so cliche, but it felt like home from that very first moment, because my late husband and I were together for 32 years. And I was like, God, how am I going to connect with a whole nother person and it feel natural after being with Mark for 32 years? Like, I thought it was going to be a lesser relationship, or like, at least we'll be friends and, you know, the sex does need to be good and all.
You said it.
But it just felt like home. And conversations were just so easy. And we had been on a dating app, and he immediately said, well, I'm coming off the app. I'm like, I'm not sure about that yet, sir. I'm like, I'm still trying to figure this out. But I want to say after a couple of weeks, it was like, I'm not interested. I really need to focus on what this looked like. And we dated for 3 years. And because he had been married before and it didn't work out, and my expectations were extremely high. And I know a lot of people say, they'll make statements like, well, no one will be like my late husband. They won't. I'm sorry, they're dead. Newsflash. No one will be. There's no goal to repeat that. It's to find, to me, it was to find somebody that was compatible with this version of Tina. And I remember when I started dating, my son was like, Mom, you're super demanding, like difficult. You think, like, I don't know who's going to deal with that.
Gotta love our kids.
I was like, I'm worth it. I don't know what you're talking about, son. And he was like, well, okay. And then my son is walking me down the aisle for my wedding. And we had a little dance together at the wedding. And I look at Fred and just go, I could never have imagined that this would have taken place in my life. But at the same time, like if he sleeps in too late, I'm like, you okay?
I know. Yep. Yeah, that's another podcast.
Yeah. So it was taking the chance to make myself available to be loved. But I'd also come to the conclusion I was okay if it didn't happen. Once, if that's what I got, because I do realize that some people go their whole lives and maybe have never had one person they felt like was a good marriage. But maybe I was the gift to him to be able to have something good. So I'm happy about that too.
Oh, thank you for sharing. I love it. I love that when you gave him the hug, it felt like home. That's awesome. Well done.
From there. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I know you're really busy. I'm going to say something to our listeners, and then I would like for you to close out this conversation, whatever final thoughts or recommendations or whatever you want to share. I want to tell you thank you for being a part of this conversation. I am sorry for the loved one that you have lost that has drawn you here, but I'm glad that you found us. And I look forward to seeing you next week, Thursday. Talk to you soon.
Okay. My turn?
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to thank everyone for listening to me, my scratchy voice. But just to tell everyone, like, there is love out there, and it starts from inside of us. So find it, have patience with yourself, hug yourself, and make that your home. And then you can give the others.
Thank you, Donna.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune in to Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.